your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is 6:02 on Monday, 22nd January 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is News to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. Heads must roll in action taken to fire the entire Paria Fuel Trading Company board of directors, as well as officials who were culpable in the diving tragedy that led to the deaths of 4 divers in 2022. So says opposition MP Saddam Hussein. He said the Director of Public Prosecution was not bound by the Commission of Inquiry report, and he had the power to take action to prosecute individuals and not just the company for corporate manslaughter. Government should compensate the families, and the lone survivor insisted of having them go through a lengthy court process where they would have to relive the horror once again, Hussein said. He was speaking at a press conference of the Office of the Leader of the Opposition yesterday. And the lone survivor in the Paria diving tragedy, Christopher Boudram, wants Paria Fuel Trading Company officials to face the full brunt of the law. Boudram called for them to be fired and charged for their roles in the events that transpired in the days following the tragic incidents that cost the lives of 4 friends and colleagues. The report was laid by Energy Minister Stuart Young on Friday in the House of Representatives and has since been forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecution, Roger Gaspard, Senior Counsel, following a recommendation that Paria be charged with corporate manslaughter. Legal experts have indicated the charge of corporate manslaughter is against a company and not an individual, and the penalty is a fine. The Commission of Inquiry was launched following the deaths of divers Rishi Nagasa, Kazim Ali Jr., Faisal Kurban, and Yusuf Henry. The incident occurred on February 25th, 2022. Boudram was the only one who survived. Meanwhile, Director of Public Prosecution Roger Gaspard, SC, says he cannot simply move to charge Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited with corporate manslaughter, as was recommended in the Commission of Inquiry report. He said any action must be taken after the DPP's own independent, deliberate judgment having regard to the recommendations in the report. He said the DPP's office has to examine the report and accompanying evidence carefully, or else it will be abdicating its functions. Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez on Friday unreservedly apologized to the House of Representatives for stating on November 1st, 2023, there was no compromise to customers' personal data during the TSTT cyber attack on October 30th, 2023. In a personal explanation, Gonzalez said the statement was made in good faith on the basis of information provided by TSTT. He said, as line minister, I reported to the Parliament the contemporaneous information I received in my official capacity, and at no time did I set out to mislead the House or the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Gonzalez said more particularly, I had been informed by TSTT that TSTT's immediate response was to isolate the threat and launch a comprehensive investigation to ascertain the full impact of the incident. Religious organizations have reverted to COVID-19 protocols in places of worship and schools amid fears of surges in cases. On Saturday, the interreligious organization IRO held a virtual meeting advising members to reinstate measures such as sanitation and mask wearing where possible. IRO head Pundit Lloyd Mukram Sergio said they were prompted by Health Minister Terence Dayal Singh's recent revelations that 6 people died and 13 were hospitalized from the virus within the last 4 weeks. He said our membership was reminded about the present situation and information it was getting from the ministry, now that this thing is beginning to move forward again. Although Health Minister Terence Dayal Singh last week warned against over-exaggerating the level of the outbreak, Sergio said there's still a level of uncertainty surrounding the disease spread, especially with Carnival in the air. Not enough money allocated to the running of Carnival 2024. This from Winston Gypsy Peters, chairman of the National Carnival Commission, the NCC. The NCC has been allocated $141 million to manage this year's carnival. The figure represents $6 million less than what the NCC received in 2023. Gypsy said he described the Commission's 2024 subventions as inadequate and worrying in an interview with the Sunday Guardian on Wednesday. He said every year, government has been slashing the NCC's funding, while TNT generated $1.1 billion in revenue from carnival events. He said the reduced amount would not result in a smaller carnival, but payments to suppliers will be affected and delayed. A collision involving a police vehicle and driver on the compound of the police station in Paria is being investigated. Paria police are investigating their colleagues who were involved in the collision on the compound while driving vehicles on the station last Friday. As reports indicated, one car was driving into the compound from High Street while the other was reversing to respond to a report. The collision reportedly occurred at 6:05 p.m. No one was hurt in the incident. And finally, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the 2024 presidential race and endorsed Donald Trump, ending his 7-month campaign. He quit ahead of the Republican primary election in New Hampshire, where he was polling in the single digits. Mr. DeSantis, once considered a strong contender for the party's nomination, but Sunday he said he did not have a clear path to victory. Nikki Haley, Mr. Trump's last remaining challenger, said she was the only one able to beat U.S. President Joe Biden. Ms. Haley will go head-to-head with Trump in New Hampshire on Tuesday, the second of a series of state-by-state contests to pick a Republican nominee for the November general election in 2024. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good morning.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
And a half minutes after the hour at 6 o'clock on this, the 22nd day of January. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Full casting this morning. You just heard from Paul Richards. We heard from Wendell Stephen. Richard Raghubar Singh is taking some time off, but he may come on. We got Ruben and Shane. My name is Steve Khan. Let's get straight into the meat of the matter with the WTC, what's happening, weather, and traffic wise. Let's start out in the east. Make our way up west, approaching Piaco Light. You've got a Trin City to UE. Yep, you're heavy. And then Valsain to Port of Spain, it's a lot of volume. All right. Nothing out of the west. Kelly Village, leaving St. Helena. You've got some traffic there. Chase Village towards Sugarguanas. Yep, you've got some traffic there as well. That main road is beginning to build. Nothing else to tell you about on the Solo or in San Fernando. All right, let's get into the W, see what's happening there. It is 24 degrees on our Twin Island Republic, both Piaco and Crown Point, and the Met Office is saying it's partly cloudy with occasional cloudy periods and breezy with a few light to moderate showers. This evening will be fair with the isolated shower winds may gust at times, especially in showers. 30 degrees is our maximum temperature for today on both islands. And checking some temps across our listenership, it's -6 and clear in Toronto. Miami, you're at 19. Orlando, 8. New York, -5 and clear. Let's see. Atlanta, you're at -4. London, 9 and windy. Tampa, 8. Washington, D.C., you're sitting at a -7. Ouch. All right. Now let's see who sent us hellos. First thing this morning, got a few people already. Wayne B. in Covington, Georgia. Garth Celia from Valencia. Oh, you're back home. Oliver Man Warren, Carol Guevara, Wendy and James, Boy Bedesi, Marcia Rock. Good morning to you out in a cold Florida. Ewart Ratchball, Rena Budu Jennings out in Pidgey Valley, Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida. Dennis Bassard, CJ out in a cold New York. Carol Joseph, Slick Money Grip. Good morning to you. Dan Raj, good morning to you. And let's see who we have here. Yeah, Michael, good morning to you as well. Hope all is good. All right. Right. Good morning to you, Paul Richards. What's happening?
Morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone. Good Monday morning.
Yeah. Morning to you.
Welcome to the week of pay for many.
Yeah, because you know January
what
is
is the longest season for the year.
Yeah, boy. Ooh. It is.
So many
Nobody
people will
has
be
money.
getting paid today after having been paid either the 15th to the
Yeah.
20th of December
Mhm.
last year. So many
Mhm.
happy people are going to be happy, be able to. Not that just stop them from paying us the money to go to St. Mary's this weekend, but or CIC, I should say.
Yeah.
Morning, Wendell.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and listeners and viewers all over the globe. It's a beautiful Monday morning. I think I heard rain some point in time, but it's not raining now. It appears to have cleared up, So happy
Okay.
to be in the land of the living for those who are have lost loved ones, including Miss Jackie Lazarus. Her husband died, I think at the end of last week, either Friday or Saturday. I think her husband died, Mr. Joel Hardin. So condolences. Everyone knows Jackie Lazarus. She has been at the side of, I should say, as a strategist for Dr. Rowley. What is this? No, man. They spraying?
We're not there. I don't know.
No, I'm telling you, I'm hearing that truck that they come around spraying for
Oh, yeah.
mosquitoes.
Well, just make sure you cover your fish tanks and
No, I
change.
didn't. I didn't because no warning came.
Oh, you better go and see about that quickly.
Excuse me a second. Excuse me.
Yeah, go and see about that. Go and cover your fish tanks. Usually when they spray, folks, so birds that you have your water for, food, cover it, change it. Fish tanks, cover it. Dog bowls, cat bowls, change their water one time, wash out the bowl. That spray will land in the water and then they will drink it. It's not too good for them. So keep that in mind. All right. Yeah, lot happened this weekend. We have how many weeks to Carnival? 3 weeks again to Carnival. It's on the 12th and 13th of February. And the fetes are roaring. People say they have no money, but who?
Well, they went to the biggest posing Fete here in a long while because I heard it was one posing Fete and
Yeah, that fete is a pose.
no vibes at all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't go outside there. As soon as I open that door, whoa! I rather me alive and the fish dead.
Just cover your mouth and go.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
But they didn't warn us. At least I didn't get any warning. Maybe they came around warning, but I didn't certainly. And this kind of late now. They normally do that earlier than this.
Normally at 4 o'clock in the morning, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but coming back to your fete there, Paul. There's two fetes is normally a poser fete, that and lime.
Let me tell you something. This is my second. This was my second CIC fete, right?
Oh, you went?
I reluctant. Yeah, I wasn't going, but I decided to go after. But let me tell you something.
You saw the scalpers outside?
No, I no, I didn't experience that. Well, yeah, that's a normal thing anywhere you go now. Because I parked by the tennis court and I walked up. So yeah, everybody want to buy your ticket. They're not selling, they're buying your ticket. But anyway, you're right. But that fete has some beautiful women, boy. Jeez, Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad have real beautiful women, boy. And they dress to kill. They dress, I don't even know who's selling them kind of clothes, but if you see some outfits, partner, they look, my eyes were, and plenty women. I think fetes, well, certainly that fete, because it's the only fete I went last year, and it'll probably be the only fete I go in this year. Groups of women together, plenty. And as I say, they all dress to impress. And they posing. Yeah, they posing.
Did you walk away with any numbers? Did you walk away with any numbers?
Absolutely none. And women get brave now. They even come in and approaching you and say, can I dance with you? They're even doing that too.
But they have shortage, of men to wine on.
Well, boy, I say, but it was, I enjoyed it, except, again.
I heard the deco was Ben Geyer, who I worked with at CNMG. He did the set at that time. And he has, I mean, the set and the settings and the decor is outstanding. I think it creates such an impressive ambience. I understand the food was fantastic, the drinks were out of this world, but the music was lackluster because they have 3 songs for the year.
Yeah, well,
2 from Michael Teja and 1 from Olatunji, and that's it.
Yeah, and Destra talks too much, you know. I don't know
and
why.
that I heard that report over and over. That was the biggest report out of social media, was ablaze on Sunday with condemnation of Destra's. They call it destruction. And talking. I don't know why she doesn't get over that. Such a talented woman. I mean, amazingly talented woman.
Yeah.
But get on a stage and talk about how much road match she ain't win, and she playing for 24 years. And okay, we get it. Just sing a song and whine.
She talks too much. She's always had that problem, you know. She's always had that problem. And that's why in Soca Monarch, if you remember, she always used to be like one of the top ones for Soca Monarch. And then would go on stage in a competition and talk.
So talk herself out of winning.
Yeah. But it was, I enjoyed it. I heard, though, that there were complaints in the VIP area that stuff ran out. And I heard that from one of the people who organizes the VIP area. He said they have to do a post-mortem. You understand? He's an old CIC student. And he's one of the people who kind of initiated that VIP area, as he said. And he said that there were several complaints this year in the VIP area. I don't know because I didn't go VIP. I'm satisfied with where I was. But I enjoy it because I don't Fete, so I enjoyed it. You know, the music. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the people. I don't eat much and I don't drink much. I tried different things and
I do go to any venue hoping to eat. I always eat before I go. Even like when we went to the mixer last week, I ate before I went. What? Sorry? Paul behavior.
I watch Paul face when you say you don't eat much.
No, I vexed Paul. Paul went hot shop the other day. He know I want a hot shop roti. I want a PPP. What is a PPP? It's a potato with plenty pepper.
You know, I think you need to be more sensitive to your lovely wife, because you would swear this woman do a cook or feed you because you be usually begging for food. I know that is not the case. I know Carrie-Ann feeds you and make sure the house has food, but you would swear that nobody will feed you because you always begging for food.
But let me tell you, that house has so much food in it.
So why are you always begging for food then?
Well, I need lunch.
Remember Steve out whole day.
Steve Limit, and me too, and you and everybody else. What's your point?
Well, I guess I
will tell you, Steve, this is the second time in a row that I've been extremely disappointed with hot shop roti. You ever eat a roti and you just happen to eat the roti because you was hungry? Because I had the breakfast on Friday, the roti had absolutely no taste.
What? Okay. I will let the owners of hot shop.
That's strange. What
you ever had a Juman roti, Paul?
Yes, Steve.
Yeah.
But what did you have, Paul? What type
I had a shrimp.
Yeah, you like shrimp.
Well, I can't help you with that. I'm never disappointed in the beef with chana, mini beef with chana I buy. That's what I buy. Mini beef with chana.
I'm like, and it's just and this is the second time I'm gonna give them another rest now.
Okay.
I stopped eating patras for the same reason. Patras just hit on this.
Yeah. The other day, though, I got a mini beef and with no chana, just beef inside the roti. That disappointed.
That's a Reuben, is it a roti?
No, I can't. No, I want no chana. Anyway,
okay,
so going back to the Fete over the weekend, of course, I thought it was very well organized as my first experience.
Yeah.
And as I said, I don't know that it was as crowded as it was last year, though. I gathered that it wasn't as crowded, you know. But again, as I said, it's probably the only Fete I'm gonna go, and the only Fete I went last year, and the only Fete I'm gonna go this year. So,
was there a Fete in government campus last evening?
I'm not sure.
I think there was.
I think there was also a breakfast party because A couple partners say they're going some breakfast party after
Up in
CIC.
Waterfield?
After CIC.
No,
I think
no, there was
in the
pre-soca.
West.
There was pre-soca.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, because the big soca is coming up. So that was pre-soca. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's that.
You only to keep up with it.
I think
Yeah,
that
but
was
Yeah,
a mob.
it was very well subscribed as usual.
I guess so. I ain't going them. Me and Becky.
And then there was Experience in South, I think, on Friday night, which seemed very, very well attended.
Yeah. There was also Chutney Soca Monarch at the Rig on Saturday.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in pan. I clean forget about. I did that pan crawl last year.
Prelims is next Sunday, am I correct?
You mean prelims? Yes. What was that last night then?
No,
No,
prelims is next Saturday, Steve.
it's
Sunday. Yeah.
Sunday. Right.
Not prelims, semi-finals.
Semi-finals.
Right.
But that was prelims last night when they go wrong to the panyards, not so?
Prelims is when they go around to the panyards here.
So that took
You
place
know,
last night.
That's been happening all week. That's been happening for the week.
You know, I've never done that. I understand it's amazing to do the crawl, but I have never done that.
Let me fix that. There's food.
I
did
didn't
it
go
once.
before I go anyway. So
I did it last year also too for the first time. So it's actually what the t-shirt, the jersey I have on this morning is my All-Stars jersey, you know, the one I got from the Ingusta. That's the jersey I have on this morning.
Anyway, what's happening in the news? Big news, of course. The Paria report was laid in Parliament on Friday.
yeah.
Quite damning report on Paria.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was reading something. They have a month to I was hoping Richard would have been on for this.
A month for what?
To charge them or
No, Steve.
something I was reading
The
somewhere.
report, a commission of inquiry cannot mandate anybody be charged. They could make
No, that was saying the DPP has to act within a month or something like that.
No, he doesn't have to act within any month. That's totally
Explain it for me then.
I know what
It's
I
just
know.
erroneous information. The DPP doesn't have to act on anything in the Paria report. They are just recommendations.
Yeah, I think I know what Steve is talking about. David Abdullah apparently said that under the OSH Act, they have a month again before they can take action. I think that's what
If
David Abdullah said.
charges come under the OSH Act, that's if charges come under the OSH Act. But the report made a recommendation for corporate manslaughter, which is a different legal approach for what may have transpired. My issue is this commission of inquiry was instituted by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Am I correct?
Correct.
And the report was quite condemnatory of Paria's handling of the entire thing.
Yeah.
Very, very. I mean, you couldn't get more pointed than that. You know, going as far as to recommend corporate manslaughter charges. Of course, corporate manslaughter would not be against a person; it would be against a company. In this case, Paria.
Right.
Because of decisions taken, and there's so many parts, but a lack of even a plan to try to save the men, insensitivity to the families. How can the board and/or management who made those decisions still be in place?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Given how damning that report was of the handling of that thing where 4 men died. And I'm not suggesting that the company made the men die, but there was a lack of a proper cohesive plan to even try to get the men out. No attempt, and the decisions to stop anybody else from going in. I mean, the report is so damning. It's 512 pages, I think.
Yeah.
I only get through parts of it because it's so voluminous. And it is so damning and now laid in the parliament and in the public domain that how can that board and management who were responsible for those decisions stay in place?
Yeah. Well, maybe
with any level of conscience at all.
Yeah.
In any other country, as that report comes out, because the report certainly would have gone to Her Excellency the President first and made its way into the cabinet for consideration, and the cabinet laid it in the parliament. How can that board be still in place?
Well, that's a good poll for today.
No, but think about it.
Yeah.
The recommendations weren't sublime or benign, you know. They were very, very pointed.
Yeah.
And neglect of duty. And let me tell you something. The DPP has responded by saying that a lot of because it wasn't a court. It was a pseudo court kind of inquiry. And yes, there was Ramesh Law's Mirage and Prakasham, but so it was akin to some sort of pseudo legal procedure, but not in the confines of a court. A lot of the information could be considered hearsay, according to the DPP, and he and his team would have to consider the report in its entirety and evidence to support any potential charges being made. But just based on the Commission of Inquiry alone report and how much millions are spent, and the fact that it was initiated by the government, who put together the team, including Mr. Lynch, King's Counsel, you understand? And the report be so damning. How can that board actually continue in their positions? And some elements of management too. You understand?
Yeah.
It's unthinkable to me. Unthinkable. But you know what? It probably will happen.
Yeah. Well, we could our poll today could be, should the board and management be removed from Paria with immediate, based on the findings of the Commission of Inquiry?
Well,
because we haven't
immediately may be strong, because if when you're removing a board, you have to have a board and just to put it to replace them.
That should be hard.
I don't know. The board are Chairman Newman George, Fayed Ali, Avi Chedi, Peter Clark, Eustace Nancis, Reza Salim. You know? And some of the testimony from the members of management of Paria during that Commission of Inquiry, who also came in for some licks because of the decisions they made on that day, or the decisions they didn't make, quite frankly. You understand? I mean, and when you were hearing it, it was harrowing. So you could imagine for the families, and they said the families should be also compensated. Remember, I and we always said it's not if it is how much.
Yeah,
it's not no matter if, you know. And the DPP is the criminal side of things if the DPP decides to go that way. Given the information in that report, there's a civil case coming in. You all know that, right?
Yeah.
There's a multi-million-dollar civil case coming. I asked a lawyer to know you. And the lone survivor, Christopher Boudram, want the officials to face the full brunt of the law. He called for them to be fired and charged for the roles they played in the events that transpired.
Yeah.
So we see how that goes.
I'm seeing Carlisle Cupid here saying, patience with the process, gentlemen. There is no legislation in Trinidad and Tobago. The UK passed such legislation in 2007. Any such action must be taken under the OSH Act in Trinidad and Tobago. Interesting.
Well, I don't think the King's Council is going to put the term corporate manslaughter in a report if it didn't exist in the books in Trinidad and Tobago. You understand? He's not going to drag it. And from all the legal experts I've seen report in the newspapers on the weekend, it does exist. It seems like it does exist. You understand?
Yeah. But I'm seeing also people calling for individual charges to be laid. I don't know how that will pan out.
Well,
everybody
they were acting on behalf of the company, not individually. So a board, unless a board goes in a flagrant disregard for the law, they're usually protected by that. You understand? In terms of acting on behalf of the company, so the company is the one that will face this thing. Civilly, I don't know what the scenario is in the civil arena. But I mean, I hope they've learned from it, and it will be interesting to do some sort of audit of the safety protocols and mechanism. What shocked me the most in that, all through it, is I didn't hear of one attempt being mounted, one proper attempt. You understand? Even if you're starting and say, okay, it's too dangerous. Let's not pursue that, you know?
Yeah.
And the fact that pretty early on, contrary to the autopsy reports, there was a decision clearly that, well, them dead.
Yeah.
Which turned out not to be the case. It's a really, really tragic circumstance. Let me tell you something. Very, 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 very tragic circumstance.
It is.
You know, and
of course, just an update on my situation. The police eventually came on Saturday.
Very good.
To take the footage of the DVR. So that's
excellent.
They came on Saturday. You know?
Might they have to come directly to you and take it, while it is admirable
But
that
they said that they had to do that, so
they
they
have to, there's a
eventually
process
changed.
that they have to engage because there were blow holes in whatever case they may be trying to construct.
Yeah.
So you see, he can do anything with that. He take it himself and he bring it.
Well,
They have to come to the machine itself and take it.
they got it on Saturday.
Yeah, I hope they don't have anything else on that.
Yeah.
In my office. In my office, hardly likely.
I don't know. Highly likely is not no.
You see, my office goes on my cameras record on motion. I have the ability.
What you're trying to say, you have no motion in the ocean?
I have the ability to keep very still sometimes.
But it might be you're not the only principal inside that office, and maybe anybody else. It might be you.
You say it Harper could be caught on camera.
I'm never called any name, sir. So next day you hand over Harper in an awkward position. No
Oh
pun
gosh. Well, he was there when they came for the footage. So if he allowed them to take footage of himself, well, boy, look trouble here.
People have different fetishes, you know. Public Utilities Minister Marvin. Now I realize what Ali said. You got that man get asked. Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez on Friday unreservedly apologized to the House of Representatives for stating on November 1st that there was no compromise to customers' personal data during TSTT cyber attack on the 30th of October 2023. Ministers get questions in Parliament for urgent answer and for oral answer. For urgent answer, it's within like a 24-hour period, as the name implies. And for oral answer, I think they have a week and a half or 2 weeks to get the information. The information usually comes through the technocrats and the PS in the ministry, right?
Yeah.
The ministers don't go into the entity and get the information themselves. Just the question is sent to the PS does the due diligence and goes to the management and the board and gets information. So whatever he would have read in Parliament would have come from the organization, who clearly were the ones who fabricated or did not have a good command of the company they were running in terms of information I believe they should have had. So they're the ones to make him look bad. So I knew that truth was going to get bust. And the throats were busted, not so?
Yeah.
You know, you put a minister in that position, you're going to get bust truth.
Walk softly and carry a heavy stick. I remember messaging Marvin about that, Minister Gonzalez about that at the time.
What?
Walk softly and carry a heavy stick. That was Martin Joseph's favorite saying.
Let me leave that alone. Religious organizations have reverted to COVID-19 protocols in places of worship. I'm seeing a lot more people wearing masks again, generally.
I see people wearing masks and they're alone in the cars and thing. I still see that. And I'm wondering, okay, you just want that mask over your face. You want to hide? Because you're alone in your car.
Sometimes you actually, I remember when it was mandatory, because you had only mask outside the car, sometimes you forget the mask on because it became so.
Or you can forget a mask on, Paul, in a car by yourself? Because
it became so part of what you did that sometimes it didn't register in your head. Anyway, some religious organizations are reinstituting measures, including sanitation and mask wearing where possible.
Yes, I know the Anglican Church, the bishop, I think, had sent out a notice advising people, not ordering people, but advising people when they come into church to wear the mask and sanitize.
I don't think it's mandatory in most places yet.
Yeah, no, it's not.
But they're advising you, please, use your judgment. Right? 6 people died and 13 hospitalized. We'll have Ministerial dancing coming up after 7 to give us an update on how that is progressing and what we should be doing. That's coming up. Condolences again.
Carnival in full swing with people all over the place. So.
Exactly. And those breakfast parties and CIC and experience and all those threats over the weekend, numbers going to rise.
Because I think I saw an interview last night with Mrs. Rowley, Sharon Rowley, and she also was talking about they had questioned her in CIC Fete about COVID protocols and things. So she had some advice for people and so on. And I think they interviewed Lyrical, one of the artists too. You know, so
condolences again to the mighty chocolates, Dr. Hollis Liverpool. His wife, Ruth Liverpool, passed away after an illness last week. Her funeral, for those of you who would like to know, is taking place tomorrow, Tuesday the 23rd at 10:30 a.m. at St. Finbar's RC Church in Diego Martin. Right? Condolences also to their daughter, Julia Liverpool Roberts, so and the rest of the family. Chocolates is taking the year out of competition, of course, out of respect, and he's certainly in mourning. I'm sure they were married over 50 years.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm sure. So condolences to Chocolates.
Chocolates is in the 80s, not so?
Yeah, he or close to it. Gypsy is saying not enough money has been allocated to Carnival 2024. He said they got 141 million compared to 147 million last year. And it's not enough. He said they asked for 200 million last year anyway. And he said TNT generated $1.3 billion in revenue from Carnival events. How does come up with that number? I think they just be pulling numbers out of that.
I'm sure that's what they're doing.
That he said that, and there was no. When I hear that, I just say, "How?" I mean, you could quantify tourists coming into the country, hotel bookings, and how much that is generating. But how it generate to the country $1.3 billion to the country in revenue? Is it external revenue? Is it money from suppliers and parties and stuff you're counting up?
I think they do all that. I think what they're doing, and there was a committee in place that I was part of at one point in time, led by Dr. Karen Niles, who we were tasked with examining exactly what Carnival brings in and so on. But the committee we never finished our work. But I know that a lot of times there's a how I should put it, basis in which you calculate the people that come in and how much money people actually spend. You understand? How much money?
But how are you disaggregating, for instance, tourists who come in and spend this? They generally say each tourist would spend X amount of US dollars by how much of a tourist come in, so you know how much is generated additionally. But how is calculating how much money is circulating? Money just circulating in the system.
Yeah. So
how does that translate to generating revenue?
Right. So that's the one that they never really got a
exactly.
handle on.
And I feel that when they say that, that's what they're talking about. So
yeah.
So then it's just a weird number to just drag out of a hat seemingly to me without any context at all. $1.3 billion in revenue. I mean, how you know that? Tell me.
Everybody
it might be right, but I just don't know how they come by that.
Every carnival, though, at the end of carnival, everybody's complaining. The vendors that say they make no money. The bands that say they break even. The feds that say they don't really declare anything. Nobody declares any profit after carnival. You notice that? Everybody complains.
Because if you declare profit, you have to pay tax on it. So everybody will say they lost money.
Even media houses make extra money during the carnival time because
they do.
of the ads and so on.
Absolutely.
But nobody really says that they make money, you know. Nobody admits that they've done well, you know. And
the state, in this case, is investing $141 million for infrastructure for people to make money, which I have no problem with it. Because it's supposedly the development of a sector. I just don't understand, or they haven't made clear how they disaggregate money that didn't come from inside the treasury.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Money that's being circulated locally and just being moved into different areas because of the fetes and the entertainment and the wire bending and the art and the, and the video production and the supply and the support services and all of that.
Because I'm sure there's a way to get information from banks to see who would have taken those short-term loans that they give out for Carnival. Because banks advertise and give out.
But it's still internal money, unless some of the money actually is costume paid for in US online.
Yes.
But is there anybody doing the work to disaggregate that? I know Dr. Barnes James used to do some work on it, but I just have never heard. I think last time a question was asked in Parliament and Minister Mitchell did give some information, but it wasn't a lot of information in terms of disaggregation of how much external to TNT has come in net forex, for example, earnings, But that's short than $1.3 billion.
Yeah. Maybe we could talk to Mrs. Paula Goop, Minister Paula Goopy School. I did see her the mix and mingle and told her that we would try to reach out to her to talk on her portfolio. Maybe she might have an idea of what's going on in terms of those kind of figures that coming out from time to time.
I guess.
Because I think the committee was under that ministry, if I'm not mistaken. I think Dr. Karen Niles worked with that particular ministry at the time, or was it planning and development? I'm not sure. But I think he listens to us, I think I have his number still, Maybe I'll try to message him and ask him if he will be willing to talk also.
I'll hold you to that. A really sad story was in The Guardian over the weekend, but several newspapers. And, we try to stay away from crime this morning, but the lawyers go back to crime, right? At some point. Because there's also a feeling that the carnival is not what it would have been a couple of years ago. But that could be because of the music too. And a lack of soca monarch is a contention. People saying people just not having a lot of energy. So far, but we're 3 weeks out. But a really tragic story. Economist Marla Ducoran migrated to Barbados in 2018. And she's somebody I know pretty well. So I have interviewed her on several occasions. I think we have interviewed her on one occasion on the show. We have. And she left Trinidad and Tobago because the family was held up in 2018 or just before. And she got so paranoid about crime that she just couldn't live here anymore because of how she was feeling. So the family, she and the children migrated to Barbados. But her husband, who is a businessman, or was a businessman, Richard Ramkisoon, stayed back to continue their business in Arima. Well, her worst fears came through.
Sad.
Her worst fears came through. When her husband was beaten, robbed and beaten again, and died.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Condolences to her and her family.
I saw that. And that story disturbed me because of what I read, the circumstances, and it disturbed me. And I don't want to vocalize what I thought at the time when I read it. But it's a sad story. I did reach out to someone and asked, where is Superstore in Arima, though? I don't know exactly where it is. But he owned the Superstore in Arima, and I don't know the store, I have to admit. But it's a tragic story. Yeah, that someone comes in your house to rob you. They poison your dogs because I think he had a few pit bulls.
He had a couple of pit bulls.
They broke into the house and then beat him within a hair's breadth of his life.
And then eventually died.
Yeah, he eventually died. The story didn't fit properly for me. It didn't fit properly for me. I'm sorry.
Well, whatever the potential backstory, whatever it is, it's the report site was a robbery.
Yeah, I saw that.
And her worst fear came through because her husband was murdered. Okay? So the reason she left materialized. Yeah. Came right home again. Within 6 years.
Yes.
Within 6 years?
Yes.
It is really, really disturbing.
But they did the same thing to the chap on El Scoro. They beat him, stole his car, killed him.
Because I saw something being circulated last night. Gary Griffith was supposed to respond to the Prime Minister and Minister of National Security last night on TV6.
They did respond. It was supposed to have been aired on TV6 last night. But
the press conference between him and Dr. Munila.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that okay? Well, people reported on that already anyway. I'm presuming no one has papers but me.
No, I don't.
Right. So it's Monday the 22nd of January.
Yeah, the superstore. Excuse me 1 second, Paul. The superstore is located that's where it looked like, close to the Arima Hospital.
Okay.
If that helps you.
All right.
Right,
Very good.
Monday, 22nd January. Let's start with the Express. Minister sorry. Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez on Friday unreservedly apologized to the House for the information that he presented earlier on last year regarding TSCT's cyber attack. Dumas hopeful about constitutional reform, but has doubts. Saddam Hussein, MP for Baratai, said heads must roll after the Paria Commission of Inquiry report was laid in Parliament. DPP passing the ball. Police vehicles crashed at Separia police station. Puerile, distasteful mocking of Euler in letters to the editor. Change your approach, Mr. Prime Minister, another letter to the editor. And the DPP says, this is the front page of the Express, charging Paria not simple. DPP looks at what evidence may be admissible in court. Right? So let's go now to the Newsday. Religious bodies reintroduce COVID protocols. Local Hindus celebrate Sri Ram Temple in Adohya. Late Massey Energy Workers' sister agrees with Commission of Inquiry on financial assistance. 10 charged for drunk driving after Fete. Y'all, come on. Y'all must know that they're going to be having breathalyzers outside the Fetes.
Exactly.
UNC DPP can bring more charges against Paria managers. Ex-Integrity Commission head complains about DPP. No help to charge public officials. Chambers plead with business owners, report extortion to police. Former top cop sues National Security Minister for defamation. It's Gary Griffith. Singh, it's Kiran Singh, TNT Defense Force can reduce crime. And 2 held minutes after robbing Sangu Gandhi fish vendor. Paria report hits neglect of victims' families. Let's move to the Guardian online now. For today. COVID-19 measures return to Anglican churches. Move a man ahead with pistol and ammunition. US-born Guyanese resident to face cocaine smuggling charges. 10 arrested and charged for DUI offenses. NCC's allocation for 2024 insufficient, says Gypsy. Man kill, friend wounded in Tacarigua. Paria mom on COA report. Remember, only DPP can decide whether to lay charges. Economist returns home after husband killed in home invasion. Energy Chamber pleased. Paria COE report made public. And Mr. Parry calls for Paria Board to be removed after COA report. So those are trending stories in your Guardian Express and the Newsday.
So we take the poll from that last headline you read there about Mr. Parry, Russian Parry.
But it's not only him.
Yeah. But let's give him the credit now. And as much as
let's not ascribe it to a political entity because it becomes swayed by that. Let's just say given the report being released, should the Paria Board be removed?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Before I give you the results of on Friday, let's say good morning, going out to Carl M. Jack, Doreen Pierre, Trinidad Margot, romantic, passionate lover. Good morning from Ireland. Good morning to you. Ambrose.
Steve Khan, you see that person? Now, comments on YouTube are seen by everyone, right? And including our viewers and so on. They say whoever that person is, they are very disrespectful and they say slanderous things.
So we should ignore them now?
I don't know how we could deal with it. I don't mind the political criticism, Mr. Romantica, whoever you are. But you see, when you're name calling, when you're calling people stooge, and when you're insulting my co-host, I have a real problem with it. That
person did that?
Look back in the chat, you'll see it.
Well, I'm going down the line, so okay, I'll check it out. Ambrose Blog, good morning. Alistair Hott, CPT Singh. Okay, I see why. I got you. Right. Okay, so we'll ignore that person from now on. Romantic, passionate lover. You have a serious problem. Serious. You need help. Josie Richardson, good morning. Mrs. R, Rena Boodoo Jennings, Cheryl Seeley, Kyle L. Cupid, Nemesis, Tony Stark. Morning, Iron Man. Boy Bedesi, Evans David, good morning to you as well. Thank you so much. Alan Reese, good morning to you as well. Sankufa, good morning to you. All right. So our poll results on Friday. We asked you on Friday, do you think an additional $100 million investment in the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force to help fight crime will make a difference? Well, 77%, 77 said no. All right. Of course, this morning's poll is up already. So give us a call, 222-8255, toll-free North Americans, 866-525-1099 on WhatsApp, like Jerome Joseph just said. Good morning to you at 3181021, and of course on Facebook and YouTube. Given the recommendations in the COE Paria report, should the board of Paria be removed? All right. Given the recommendations in the Commission of Inquiry and Paria report, should the board of Paria be removed? Yes or no? All right.
Alan Reese says yes.
Yeah,
And
Gregory
Gregory
Bauer
Boyer.
says yes to the poll. Joran says yes. Vancouver say Holmes Roti is the best. I've never heard of that one.
Holmes Roti is Holmes Bus Up Shot is very good.
Where is
had
that?
Holmes Bus Up Shot. There's a Holmes in Arima, I know, the one in Arima. There was one in St. James at one time. I don't know if they're still there. No, they're not.
All right. Ambrose Blah says no. Wayne B says yes. Mo Gaines, hell yes to the poll. CPT Singh says no. Faria Hayatali says yes. Wayne Joseph out in Ontario, Canada says yes. What says you, caller?
Good morning, gentlemen. Sandy Grandy, yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Given the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry Paria report, should the board of Paria be removed? Yes or no? Of course, next hour we have the Minister of Health on the program, Mr. Terence Dialsing. All right. You know, gentlemen, I woke up this morning with the back of both eyes hurting. I don't know why. Still hurts. Don't know why.
The back of the eyes.
Yeah. Slick Money Grip, no. Finbar Collins, no. Shuin Kerr, yes. Boy Bedesi, yes. Eve out in Sugar Guanas. Good morning, Eve. Yes. Bobby, my good friend. Yes. With immediate effect. Thank you, Bob. Did I do Boy Bedesi? I did, yes. All right. Given the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry Paria report, should the board of Paria be removed? Yes or no? All right. Of course, today is the 22nd day of January. Today is my parents' 58th wedding anniversary.
Oh, okay.
Congratulations to them. Yeah, I'll go up there later.
5'8", you said?
Yeah, 58 years.
Wow.
And going strong.
Mm-hmm. But at 28, 30 years now, they're going strong or more. Because marriages, if you get a marriage to last 20 years now, you're lucky.
Yeah. Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad. Tony Stark. No, it won't. All right. Iron Man, thank you so much. Okay, what happened there? Well done, Paul.
I don't think Tony Stark responded to our poll, you know. That the comment the person says after is He said, no, it won't, Steve. They need to temporarily hold all other operations. Where did it go? Hey, where did it go? What happened?
And place soldiers, sailors, and airmen along with police officers in a SOE. Okay, so you probably going with our poll from Friday.
Yeah.
Cheryl Henry says no. Jacqueline Linfat says yes.
Check your phone, Mando.
Sure.
Jay, how you pronounce that name? Vianney? Some people saying yes, but we can't understand why they are saying yes. Okay. All right. We have 3 minutes. Yeah, saw that there, Paul. Well done. 3 minutes again to take your votes on this, the 22nd day of January.
Carol Guevara says no.
Carol! Lorna. Good morning, Lorna. Morning, Indy. Morning, Carly says yes. All right. Given the recommendations in the Commission of Inquiry Paria report, should the board of Paria be removed? Yes or no? Carl M. Jack. Yes, they should be. Thank you, Carl M. Jack on YouTube. All right. You got 2 minutes again. 2 minutes, Doggy Fresh, to vote on our...
Technology is so wonderful. Technology is so wonderful.
I didn't know it could
They give you so many options.
Yeah, we got a call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. This is Glenn from Queens.
Glenn from Queens, a cold Queens. Good morning.
That's right.
Make sure and put your long johns on.
Left and right. Yeah, do that right now.
Yeah, TMI.
Okay. They should be removed.
It should be removed. Thank you, Glenn, out in Queens. It's so cold.
I can well imagine.
It's cool. That is cool.
Yes, snowstorm this weekend again.
I think I saw an alert to the UK also too that they're expecting to have some really bad, some snowstorms passing through the UK.
Wow, that was.
I saw that as a ticker tape last night on the news.
Everything to a halt in the UK. Cheryl Johnson says yes on WhatsApp. Good morning, Junior. Junior says yes. Sunny San Fernando is in the house. Good morning, Sunny. Yes. Who is this here? All right, Junior. All right, lovely. Josie Richardson says yes. This is a real close poll, boy.
Actually, no.
No? Okay.
No.
All right, let me get the news ready here. You have 15 seconds to vote. Given the recommendations in the Commission of Inquiry Paria report, should the board of Paria be removed? Of course, our poll will stay up until tomorrow morning when I give you the final results. All right. Is this Val? Yes, Val, it's you. Val says no. Thank you, Val. Eco Room Inspire. Okay. Yes. Mrs. R.
That's a brand new name.
Yeah, brand new, fresh. Got that new message sent. Mrs. R says no. Let's head overseas, across the pond. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Yes, I think
Morning.
Yes, good morning. Yeah, I think it should be moved immediately.
All right.
This is resident of Long Island.
This is who from Long Island?
Reggie.
Not hearing you clearly at all.
Reggie.
Reggie. Thank you, Reggie. Yeah. Stay warm.
Yeah, man.
All righty. Take care.
Isn't Long Island generally colder than other places?
Yeah.
Catherine St. Anne's says yes. All right. Gentlemen, let's run into our 7 o'clock major news. AV is in.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
The UNC urges the government to implement recommendations from the Commission of Inquiry into the Paria diving tragedy. Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez on Friday apologized to the House for the TSTT cyber attack. Religious organizations have reverted to COVID-19 protocols in places of worship and schools amidst fears of a surge in cases. And a former governor of the Central Bank of Barbados suggests CARICOM country should formally adopt US dollar for everyday transactions. Details in a moment. This is news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sentil-Bab. Good morning. The United National Congress is asking for implementation of the recommendations given by the Commission of Inquiry into the Paria diving tragedy. On Friday, the report was laid in the Parliament by Energy Minister Stuart Young. It has been sent to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. 4 divers died from the incident on February 25th last year while carrying out routine maintenance work on Paria Sea Line 36 pipeline at berth number 6 at the Point-a-Pierre Harbour. Member of Parliament for Barataria San Juan, Saddam Hussein, on Sunday at a news briefing, urged the ruling administration to take the proposals given by the Commission to the next level by applying them into law or regulations.
Recommendations of this report, the 52 recommendations, most of which has to do with health and safety protocols, must be implemented. It must be analyzed. It must be determined. Laws, regulations must come into effect with respect to this report. This report must not sit on a shelf like other commission of inquiries and collect dust in this country. Our hard-earned taxpayers' money have been paying for these reports. This is just one of another commission of inquiry report with recommendations.
MP Hussein said, should persons be found accountable of wrongdoing, appropriate action should be taken.
Those who are responsible must be held accountable. And these are the issues in which I wish to raise with respect to this Commission of Inquiry report. And don't forget, it was one of the senior managers who indicated that when asked what if he would rate Paria's response to this matter, he rated it as what? Excellent. Today, a Commission of Inquiry is recommending that criminal prosecution be made against Paria. Criminal prosecution.
The lone survivor in the Paria diving tragedy, Christopher Boodram, wants Paria Fuel Trading Company officials to face the full brunt of the law. Boodram called for them to be fired and charged for their roles in the events that transpired in the days following the tragic incident that cost the lives of his 4 friends and colleagues. The report was laid by Energy Minister Stuart Young on Friday and has since been forwarded to the DPP, Roger Gasp, following a recommendation that Paria be charged with corporate manslaughter. Legal experts have indicated that the charge of corporate manslaughter is against a company, not an individual, and the penalty is a fine. The Commission of Inquiry was launched following the deaths of diver Richie Nagasar, Kazim Ali Jr., Faisal Kurban, and Yusuf Henry in the incident on February 25, 2022. Boodram was the only one who survived. Director of Public Prosecutions Roger Gasper says he cannot simply move to charge Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited with corporate manslaughter, as was recommended in the Commission of Inquiry report. He said any such action must be taken after the DPP's own independent, deliberate judgment, having regard to the recommendations of the report and, most importantly, the evidence and the public interest. He said the DPP's office has to examine the report and accompanying evidence carefully, or else it will be abdicating its functions. And the Oilfield Workers Trade Union will be hosting a news briefing today at 10 a.m. at Paramount Building, San Fernando. President General Ansel Roger will respond to the recently published Commission of Inquiry report on the death of the divers. Meanwhile, the Energy Chamber of Trinidad and Tobago says sharing the lessons gathered from the Paria tragic incident is critical for the prevention of similar events in the future. It welcomes the fact that the report from the Commission of Inquiry into the tragic Paria incident has been made public. The detailed findings of the commission will be studied over the coming days and weeks by stakeholders in the energy industry. The chamber says it remains committed to playing a positive role in improving safety in the energy industry and across the country. Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez on Friday unreservedly apologized to the House of Representatives for stating on November 1st, 2023, that there was no compromise of customers' personal data during the TSTT cyber attack on October 30th, 2023. In a personal explanation, Gonzalez said the statement was made in good faith and on the basis of information provided by TSTT. He said as the line minister, he reported to the Parliament the contemporaneous information that he received in his official capacity, and at no time did he set out to mislead the House or the people of Trinidad and Tobago. He said the error in the statement on November 1st, 2023 is quite regrettable, and he unreservedly apologized to the House and to the people of TNT. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. Religious organizations have reverted to COVID-19 protocols in places of worship and schools amidst fears of a surge in cases. On Saturday, the Interreligious Organization held a virtual meeting advising members to reinstitute measures such as sanitization and mask wearing where possible. IRO head Pundit Lloyd Mukram Serju said they were prompted by Health Minister Terence D'Alsing's recent revelation that 6 people died and 13 were hospitalized from the virus within the last 4 weeks. Although the Health Minister Terence D'Alsing last week warned against over-exaggerating the level of the outbreak, Serju said there is still a level of uncertainty surrounding the disease spread, especially with Carnival. He said the organization is also monitoring developments internationally where there is an increase in some territories. Former governor of the Central Bank of Barbados, Delisle Worrell, says CARICOM countries should formally adopt the US dollar for everyday transactions. He says they should do away with their local currencies, adding the US currency is already the common currency in the region. Worrell made the call in an interview with the Jamaica Observer recently and said the move should be embraced instead of using 9 different currencies in CARICOM. Finally, here is weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago partly cloudy with occasional cloudy periods and breezy with a few light moderate showers. Nighttime will be fair with the isolated shower. Winds may gust at times, especially in showers. You can expect a temperature high of just 30 degrees Celsius, both at Piarco International Airport and Crown Point, Tobago. Currently, it's 23 degrees Celsius at Piarco and 25 at Crown Point. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock. UNC urges the government to implement recommendations from the Commission of Inquiry into the Paria diving tragedy. Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez on Friday unreservedly apologized to the House for TSTT cyber attack. Religious organizations have reverted to COVID-19 protocols in places of worship and schools amidst fears of a surge in cases. And a former governor of the Central Bank of Barbados suggests CARICOM countries formally adopt the US dollar for everyday transactions. I'm Afril Sindhilbab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in full at 12 noon today and an update at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All righty. Thank you so much, Avril, for our major news. Of course, you can join her again at 8 o'clock for our news brief. All right. All right. Let's get into a traffic update, see what's happening on the highways and the byways quickly. I got one issue to tell you about. It's on Caroni Savannah Road, just north of Chin Chin Road, creating quite a backup. A car caught on fire. Of course, the ambulance and fire services are on the scene. All right, so if you found you're a bit, Caroni Savannah. I'm talking about after you leave Kelly Village, sorry. Heading towards Curep, you've got traffic. So you've got traffic big time out of St. Helena, the back of the airport, all those areas from Chin Chin Road and the Southern Main Road heading to Ibis Gardens, you've got some traffic, all right? Because the car is on fire. Let's take traffic out to the east. You're really going to get traffic, from Maloney to QREP, Valsain to Port of Spain. Eastern Main Road, not too bad. Usual spots from Arima Old Road heading through the various areas. Going up Lady Young Road is not too bad. From Coconut Drive to the Lookout, you've got it. Maraval, heavy. Dago, heavy. Lower Santa Cruz, heading to San Juan, also heavy. Got some traffic on the creek this morning. Yeah, that's a heavy set of traffic there, but everything is pretty much lighter than usual. Just exiting into San Fernando, like Taruba on the Solo, you've got some traffic there. Heading north, yep, you're really going to pick up your traffic from, I'm waiting for it to load, just after Couva. All right, there is an accident on the Solo. It's a minor accident, and it's northbound, and it's pretty much before Searam Brothers. All right, after you pass Carlson Field is where you're going to get that. All right, so that's a quick traffic update for you. I got some votes for you as well. Sexy San Fernando says yes to the poll. Sankofa says yes. Keith Watkins, yes. Okay, Trinity in Boston, good morning to you. And that's Power 102 FM, good morning.
Hey, Power 102 FM making comments too?
No, but the poll is right on that.
I support that comment totally.
All right, so before we get into our esteemed guest this morning, let's get the results of our morning poll.
All right, of course, this morning we asked you, given the recommendations in the Commission of Inquiry Paria report, should the board of Paria be removed? We had quite a bit of votes on this morning. 26 people said yes, 10 said no. 26 said yes, move the board immediately, hell yes, all different manner of yeses we got. And we had 10 no's, all right? We won't put the minister on a spot to poll him, ask him that poll. Though. Normally we ask our guests our poll, we involve our guests in our poll, but we won't put him in that position, not today.
Why not?
You see how he fold his arms already? That's done a no.
Good morning, Minister Singh.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, I would like to hear Dr. Paul Richards' response to.
Well, my response, I said it earlier on.
Okay. Good morning, all. Good morning. Happy New Year to everyone.
Same to you.
To you gentlemen and all your listeners.
Your constituent celebrated 94 years last week.
Aye. And you didn't invite me?
Well, it was small, COVID starting to spread again. And very limited amounts. So we're enacting protocols.
Well, tell Agnes I said, happy birthday and look forward to 6 more of these.
Yeah, that's what we're counting down to.
Yes,
I will pass on your message. So thank you for joining us. All right, good morning. Of course, can you give us? I looked at the press conference and information that has been disseminated regarding your information about the COVID situation. I don't want to say resurgence because I don't want to classify it the wrong way. Can you give us an update for those who may not have seen it?
Sure. So, COVID started to rear its head again last year, as predicted, especially in the northern hemisphere, because of 2 reasons. One, winter, and it's not only COVID, it's all respiratory infections, whether it's COVID, influenza, RSV, called respiratory syncytial virus, and other viruses. So in the northern hemisphere, that normally starts around October. Because of cold and because when winter comes around, it drives people inside their houses. So people are in more intimate contact. What happens is that as people come down to Trinidad and Tobago for Christmas, New Year's, Carnival, they bring their viruses with them that are circulating in the northern hemisphere. So we always knew this was going to be a possibility. So that's why we are aggressively pursuing our influenza vaccination drive. And that's why once we noticed the slight increase in COVID cases. Now, let me give you the numbers, and thank you, Dr. Richards, for not over exaggerating. You will recall in the old days, the rolling 7-day average for COVID cases was in hundreds. It peaked at about 1,000. 1,000 was the rolling 7-day average. The current rolling 7-day average is less than 1. I want to repeat, it's less than 1. But having November and December as consecutive months with no COVID cases, and you started to see a small increase, I thought it best to alert the population, especially with Carnival and the post-Christmas season, that people should be aware of this trend, of this happening, so that they can take the precautions like wearing masks. I have gone back to wearing masks in crowded situations. In Parliament on Friday, I wore a mask because I was sandwiched between two of my colleagues. I had a constituency event on Saturday morning. I wore a mask. So we are asking people to take the necessary public health precautions with which we are well drilled and well versed in to protect themselves.
Exactly where we are, because I would have heard two names of two different types of variants. Explain the differences in them.
Sure. So the current variant that caused this surge is called, it's a fourth generation Omicron variant called JN1. So let me explain that. When Omicron first came on the scene in January of 2022, it was a much milder variant of the previous Delta and Alpha and so on. What Omicron did, fortunately, being a very mild variant, is that people will get infected and you will get a lot of natural immunity, especially for those who were unvaccinated. This JN1 variant, which we picked up for the first time in Trinidad and Tobago last week, Thursday or Wednesday, I believe, is a descendant of BA.2.86, which in itself is a third generation variant of the original Omicron. So JN1 is therefore a fourth generation, a great grandson, if I could put it in that language, of the original Omicron. What JN1 is about is that although evidence shows it may be more transmissible, the disease, the symptoms of the disease coming out of JN1 is no more severe than the other Omicron variants. So that is what it is. That is what JN1 is. And I was careful whenever I was speaking about JN1 before we detected it to say, although we have not yet detected it, it does not mean it is not here. For you to detect it, it has to be here. It's just that last week we got our first official confirmation from the genomic sequencing lab based at CARFA. So that's the clinical manifestation of JN1, and that's the genomic lineage of what JN1 is.
How the normal COVID tests that you would buy in the drugstores, are they picking up? Is that the test? Are those tests picking up this variant?
Yes, it is. So the no, tests don't pick up variants. Let me be careful. Tests pick up whether you have COVID, regardless of which variant you have.
Okay, all right.
Okay, whether it's the over-the-counter test you buy in a drugstore, or the PCR test or the antigen test that we do, right? So tests don't pick up variants. We pick up variants via genomic sequencing in a genomic sequencing lab, of which we have 2 in Trinidad and Tobago, one at UWI, which was the original one, and then CARFA built up their own capacity.
Are people still required, Minister, to report if they would have done a COVID over-the-counter COVID test to the ministry? Are they required to report that?
No. So all public health regulations have come to an end. It is the public health regulations which by law, by regulations, compel you to do that. With the expiration of all public health regulations, no one is compelled to report their COVID status again, right? So what we use as the gauge of how COVID is moving through the population is not the numbers that we would have gotten with the regulations in place, but what we see are the accident emergencies and the hospitals. That is the true gauge. So let me give you an example. There is no overwhelming of the accident and emergencies with COVID cases. There is no overwhelming of the ambulance services with COVID. And of the 272 beds we have dedicated to COVID at Cora, at Couva, and San Fernando, of those 272 beds, 13 beds are occupied. So 13 out of 272 is less than 5%. So that is the true gauge of the state of COVID in Trinidad and Tobago.
Can we get a sense from you if you are concerned of the ministries putting things in place, environmental factors, including in the US, as you said before, winter, and the UK winter, but in Trinidad and Tobago, our environmental factor, one of our environmental factors is Carnival. where people mix up. We've had quite a number of Fete this weekend, CIC, SOCA, Experience. How concerned is the ministry about this, and how closely are you watching the numbers, given we're getting closer and closer to Carnival 2024?
Yeah. So the mere fact I can give you all these numbers means that we are watching it very, very closely, Dr. Richards. Look, the current state of play with a rolling 7-day average of less than 1 does not mean that we shut down the economy. I think the days of shutting down an economy, we had to do that. The world had to do that in the very early stages. We were fighting a great unknown. And we saw coming out of that how economies and countries really struggle to regain economic momentum. And in talking about COVID and the measures, we have to weigh all of these issues in advising the population. And that is why we are advising the population at this point in time, especially those, and if I could use an example, let's take your mother, my dear friend Agnes. She's 94 years old. And you were quite right, Paul, not to have a big birthday party. Those are the kind of responsible steps we are asking people to take. In our press releases, we say everybody should weigh their personal risk, their family risk, and their community risk. And I am proud of the religious bodies who voluntarily re-implemented COVID protocols. That's the kind of responsibility we are asking for, and especially to protect our elderly. And again, let me congratulate you, Paul, for protecting Agnes.
The issue of vaccination, I know it made a difference to me because I got tested several times and I never came up positive once, and I'd been vaccinated 3 times. Now it's been a while since I've last been vaccinated. And you've said, I think last week you put out information that 800,000 doses had to be disposed of because they expired late last year. What is the ministry's stance on vaccinations now?
Yeah. So our last batch of COVID vaccines expired in September last year. When you aggregate all the vaccines that were not taken up, 795,000. So knowing that vaccines were expiring in September of last year, we started in around June or July. Don't hold me to ransom for that, but maybe May, June, July, to start to source additional doses of vaccine. It's a long, tedious process. for several reasons. One, vaccine manufacturing around the world has literally come to a halt. The because vaccines are being dumped by hundreds of millions of doses, countries are not purchasing vaccines in large quantities, so vaccine production has declined. We are trying to source vaccines since May, June, July last year from various sources. And as I answered my question in the Parliament on Friday, one of those sources seems to be coming to fruition, but I can't go into much detail because, as usual, I have confidentiality agreements and I don't want to scupper those talks. So we are trying to source some vaccines for 2024.
Is there a situation where people should be also concerned about the flu? Because my understanding is that there's a really bad flu. You've been asking people to get their flu vaccines, but from what people have reported to me, it has some pretty extreme symptoms.
Yeah. So I am glad for this opportunity. In Trinidad and Tobago, unfortunately, we use the term flu incorrectly. We have influenza and we have the common cold. What we are vaccinating against is called influenza, which is influenza A, which many people will know by their scientific names H1N1, H3N2. The influenza A, H1N1, H3N2, and so on, is the main virus that causes global pandemics. The last time Trinidad and Tobago had a pandemic through influenza A was in 2009. Then the other influenza virus is influenza B. We are vaccinating against influenza A and influenza B. The influenza virus is not the common cold, which is caused by other viruses. I mentioned earlier RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, adenoviruses, rhinoviruses. These cause the common cold, or what we call in Trinidad, the flu. What is the distinction? The flu, the common cold, which we are not vaccinating against, because people say, well, I take the vaccine and I get the cold. Yes, you will. Because the common cold, there is no vaccine against the common cold. The common cold is caused by hundreds of different viruses of the groups I just mentioned. You will get the common cold. The symptoms may be relatively mild. You will overcome it with paracetamol, water, and so on. You will not, what the doctors call, decompensate quickly. That is, go from being healthy to needing a respirator and a ventilator within 24 hours and dying. That is the province of the influenza virus, which we are vaccinating against. Influenza A, influenza B. If you get the influenza virus, which we are vaccinating against, if you are not vaccinated, you can wake up this morning at this hour, and by this afternoon, the disease progresses so rapidly and so seriously, you can land up in a hospital, a ICU, and even die. That is, so the symptoms come on much faster. They are much more severe, especially for the elderly and children. And that is why we are urging vaccinations for the influenza virus, influenza A, influenza B. We had major outreaches last year in malls prior to Christmas. And this year, post-Christmas, pre-Carnival, we are back in some malls like Gulf City. We are in Trin City Mall. We are in the Diwali Nagar site and other outreaches. And so far, we have done about 28,203 vaccines. I need to get that up to about 40,000. That will be a big help to answer your question about Carnival. That will be a big help in suppressing flu activity for Carnival. So all Fete goers, when we go to Jam and Wine, as I said on another station, vaccinate to gyrate. Have a good time here. I see Paul. Steve? Steve?
Yeah,
What happened,
because
Steve?
No, because you're kind of telling Paul he needs to go and get vaccinated first.
No, I said vaccinate or gyrate. If you want to go out there, no, okay. I'm being serious now. I think everybody over the age of 6 months, it is recommended for children over the age of 6 months and the elderly. Please take up the opportunity this week. Make a commitment to yourself, to your good health, to make sure you live to see Diwali, Eid, Easter, all these things, and get vaccinated now. Don't wait. Why? Because with Carnival, which is just about what, 2 or 3 weeks away, if you get vaccinated today, it takes about 14 days for the antibodies to build up in your system to give you full protection. So it's not that I am injected now and I am fully immunized now. No, it takes about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's why we always urge people get vaccinated in the flu season as early as humanly possible.
Minister, any protocols or advisories in place for people coming into the country during this time?
No, there are no. What we do at the airports, I think they are still doing thermal screening. But okay, so what happens on a plane? When a plane lands in Trinidad and Tobago, whether it's flu season or not, you may notice at times there's about a 1 minute delay between when the captain turns off the unfasten your seat buckle sign and before the doors are open and before you're allowed to disembark. It may be a 1 to 2 minute delay. What happens in that 1 to 2 minute delay? The captain of a flight and a cruise ship, they have a manifest in which they are supposed to report any illness on board. And that little delay that you see at times is the captain passing on to Port Health, certifying that no one on board has fallen ill for any reason, whether it's a heart attack or flu, influenza. So that is one, I wouldn't say it's a safe, it's not foolproof. It's just an international protocol that any flights coming into Trinidad and Tobago, the captain has this report that he gives to Port Health in any country around the world that certifies that there is no one on board that is seriously ill. If that person is seriously ill, then they are taken to Port Health. Each airport around the world, and we are no exception, have an isolation room where that person can be triaged and a doctor makes the determination of what this person may be suffering from and take the appropriate action.
Now, you said the public health regulations, we know they are no longer in effect. Schools are where young children and in some instances young adults congregate. Is there any advisory to parents about their children? Should they just keep their children at home if they have flu-like symptoms, etc. that we did before?
Yeah. So we always advise, and you may see the ads that we took out over the weekend in the newspapers. We always advise whether COVID is in the air or not. Always stay home if you have any viral or infectious disease, because what happens is that you take it and you spread it to all your co-workers. Specifically now in the case of schools, Dr. Richards, as you have spoken, we advise parents, keep your children home if they show any symptoms of respiratory distress or respiratory illness. And it is good advice now for everyone who are able to tolerate a mask to wear a mask, especially in situations where you're in close physical contact with other people.
Speaking of infectious disease, there was a report last week about potential tuberculosis in a Port of Spain primary and secondary school. Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, so there's no tuberculosis in that school. We work closely with the Ministry of Education. We sent in our health educators to educate the affected school and to give them the information. So let me tell you something about tuberculosis. If you test the global population, you may find between 25 to 33% of the global population will come back positive for a tuberculosis test. I might come back positive. You may come back positive. It means you have been exposed to tuberculosis. It doesn't mean you have active tuberculosis, right? So let's not over-exaggerate that one. And there is no evidence that there is tuberculosis in that school.
Is there evidence of tuberculosis in the country?
Oh, we have always had tuberculosis in the country. Always. It's endemic in most countries of the world. And that's why we have the Cora facility. That's where we treat our TB patients.
But there's no added cause for concern.
No.
Okay. I want to move it a bit onto the move initiative in Trinidad and Tobago on the issue of NCDs, and I invite you to our sister service Boom Champions are having the annual Carnival burn at Eddie Hard Ground, which is very successful already. I sent you a video last week.
Yeah.
So that you could come, and we really heartened that the kind of response we've gotten from that on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We want to invite you to check us out on Tuesday or Thursday. But I mean, people are, and I don't think it's because it's Carnival alone. Carnival is part of it, but people of all ages, from every walk of life, have come out and are part of that. Would you accept our invitation to come and check it out?
Tuesday is a better day. So if you're on this Tuesday, Paul, WhatsApp me and I will come. Thursday is a bit difficult for me.
It's 5 o'clock.
That's fine.
We want you to put on your track pants and your tights and thing and come out.
Okay, so we have a date, 5 o'clock.
Tomorrow.
Tuesday, Eddie Hart Grounds. Tomorrow, just WhatsApp me, right?
How is your move campaign going?
It is taking root because you are seeing the evidence now. More and more people, and you said it, are taking care of their health. More and more people are starting to engage in some type of physical activity. I am seeing, and we are giving out water bottles, I am seeing anecdotally evidence on the streets that people are walking with water bottles. So it seems anecdotally that the TT Moves campaign is getting entrenched in people's minds. I think our advocacy over the years is starting. We always knew that this was going to be a difficult sell because, Paul, you are talking about reversing close to 100 years of eating habits, and that can't be done in 1 year. But the proof of the pudding will be in some numbers I will get from my diabetes wellness centers and my hypertension centers, the closeout numbers for 2023. The initial evidence seems to show that people are taking their diabetes and hypertension much more seriously. But I will get those closeout figures by the end of this week, and then I will speak about it.
Minister, let me also compliment you, because somehow or the other you don't hear it anymore. I don't know that it's not happening. The issue of infant deaths and the ambulance delays and a lot of the issues that you would have faced early in your tenure have almost gone out of the news cycle entirely.
Yeah, and they have gone out not because it is happening and we are hiding information. It has gone out because we fixed it. Let me give you an example, Wendell. When I ran for the 2015 general election, I was in opposition. And you know, on election times, you take a survey in the population of what are the main issues. The main issues I remember in 2015 were 1, the economy, national security, and health. Health was number 3. At the end of my first 5-year term in 2020, when those same polls were taken as to what the population is thinking about, what they are voting on in 2020, health was not even in the top 10. What were some of the major issues, bugbears, that the population faced coming up to 2015? 1, no SIDA. You realize you don't hear complaints again about SIDA? And that directly feeds in to NCDs. 2, the ambulance service was taking too long to pick up people. Realize you don't hear about that again? 3, maternal deaths, infant deaths. You don't hear about these things again. And 4, the breakdown of our CTs and MRIs and so on. Those were the 5 big ticket items. You realize you don't hear about it, and you don't hear about it because we are suppressing information. You don't hear about it because those things have been fixed.
Yeah.
Those things are working well.
Yeah, I've been monitoring that, so
Yes.
I really think you should
Yeah, and
take a bow for that.
Well, it's not me alone. I mean,
Our next bacchanal, hold on, I ain't
Uh-huh.
going down. Our next bacchanal that you used to hear about often, that we're here for a little while too, is the issue of the pharmacists and the pharmacy board.
yeah.
That's another bacchanal that seems to have gone away.
Well, that was the big bacchanal early last year. But
Yeah.
that type of thing is always in the wings waiting to rear its head. So let's not celebrate that one too quickly.
Okay.
I think the main bacchanal factor had been sidelined. Anyway, moving on.
That's before the court. Paul, I hope you have court closed.
I called no names. I said the main bacchanal factor. It may have been a system that may have been fixed.
Well, note my words. That is always in the wings waiting to rear its head.
Okay.
Like you, I ain't calling no names.
No, I ain't calling no names neither. One of the things, of course, that I think is very important in the country in terms of the Ministry of Health is the issue of mental health in the country. And we have a relatively higher, comparatively higher suicide rate than some of our Caribbean counterparts. We have a lot of issues that we see manifesting on the streets, sometimes with homeless people. How successful do you think the ministry has been in, one, bringing awareness to people getting treatment and seeking treatment for mental health issues, emotional issues, and also continuing to the point where they are feeling well again? Because you see so many manifestations in so many ways. So not the violence we see manifesting, the way people are responding to simple things in a disproportionate proportion that may be pointing to instability that has not been recognized or treated.
Yeah. So the issue of mental health, and thanks for raising that, is one that post-COVID has gripped the world's attention. I think what COVID showed is that the world is under stress. The world, not just Trinidad and Tobago. COVID proved that. COVID showed that. Prior to COVID, back in 2018, I would have taken a note to cabinet to create the position of a National Directorate of Mental Health, the same way I did it for the National Directorate of Women's and Child Health and for NCDs, to appoint a person and a secretariat to look at the whole issue of taking mental health services to communities and to individuals where they are needed. That is called decentralization of mental health. Now, mental health is one of these conditions that is difficult to diagnose. There is no blood test like for diabetes, or you put a cuff around your arm and say you have high blood pressure. Mental health is one of those conditions that is difficult to diagnose. Many of us may have mental health challenges, myself included. However, what we are concerned about are those people who need intervention. And to move away from this image of somebody with mental health issues being institutionalized and locked up in St. Anne's for 30 and 40 years. You remember David Rudder said, you're mad, you're mad, you're mad, you're mad, you're mad, you're more than mad, St. Anne's. We want to move away from that. So the first step of destigmatizing mental health was to stop the long-term institutionalization of mental health patients in St. Anne's. When I came in as minister, there were about 1,000 persons there. Now we are down to about 700. So people have gone back to their communities, people have gone back to their families, some are working and so on. However, those vulnerable persons, and I'll give you an example because this was in the paper. When people commit suicide, it's difficult for that person in the throes of their mental breakdown to think rationally about reaching out. Now, the thing is, there are suicide hotlines. The Ministry of Social Development has one. I was in the Diwali Nagar site last week, Monday, for the vaccination thing. And when I was leaving, posted up in the Diwali Nagar site, they have a suicide hotline. There are so many avenues, but what we are trying to do with mental health in launching something called Find Care TT is a web-based support system. Because with mental health, we can't physically be in your homes when you are having these breaks with reality, when you are treating with these very serious personal issues that make you descend in a spiral of depression. So the services are there, Paul, and they are working.
But is the data showing? Because the only way
Yeah.
to know if it's working is if the data is indicating
Yeah.
more visits to the mental health care treatment centers.
So I'm coming to that. So the suicide prevention page on the Find Care TT site is the most visited page. The last time I checked, and this is old data, it was about 38,000 visits. 38,000 persons visited the suicide prevention page on Find Care TT. And I'll give you one example that I know of personally. I was in my constituency office last year, November. My secretary come. They said, Minister, MP, a woman wants to speak with you. She wants to commit suicide. So, wow. Okay. So I said, give me the phone. So I spoke to her. She told me she wants to commit suicide. She told me her problems, which I wouldn't go into on air. Long story short, I say, ma'am, I am not a psychiatrist, but I can tell you, go and call this number. And I gave her the number of our Find Care TT suicide hotline. Go and call this number now. You know, that woman called me back in about 45 minutes and said, MP, thank you. I spoke to the person on the other end. I'm feeling much better. I will not now kill myself. It can work, but Paul, as you know, with mental disease, the problem is to get people to take that step. So instead of having physical clinics where you come to our clinic, we have this web-based system where we can come to you on a web-based system.
Why is it the first time I'm hearing about this? And I'm pretty connected to media outlets.
Yeah.
So why is it well promoted? Because I'll tell you the truth, I'm pretty connected to news and press releases, and I haven't heard about it before.
Okay, well, we had several sensitization seminars, meetings. We had a big media launch of it in San Fernando last year. We also did work, and I invited you personally, Paul, to Oasis Art Exhibition to deal with mental health at the ministry. I personally invited you. And we spoke about Find Care TT then. And what we are trying to do with art, which we pioneered at the Pembroke Street Mental Health Clinic, was have people suffering from depression. And they came and they spoke about their experiences in using art to make them feel better. And it is working. So next time we invite you, Paul, come now.
Are you willing to take some calls from our listeners?
Of course.
All right. So we'll open the lines now. 222-TALK, 222-8255. Our guest is the Minister of Health, Terence Dayal Singh. He's also the Member of Parliament for St. Joseph, going on 10 years now. Well, there's a little more
about that. Yeah, I think
because October, you came in a by-election, not so?
October this year will be 10 years. That's when the by-election was.
Right.
No, one of our listeners, and I'm paraphrasing, is saying, if you're listening to you talk, you'd say we have a first world healthcare system, you're out of touch. And I'll tell you, I've hosted 2 GSC town hall meetings, one in the Red House and one in San Fernando last week. And some of the stories are not so pretty. They're not so straightforward, where people are having challenges with long waits and files being lost, etc. I don't want to go into it because it's still ongoing, but how do you respond to that, those issues and challenges?
So the issue of files being lost will be solved by digitization of our records, and that is an ongoing process. We have started that. So you are spot on, and we have started the digitization of our records because that is unforgivable. So you are quite right.
And what about the long waits? I will tell you, I took your constituent to Mount Hope. It's about 5 months ago, and we got there at 1:45, and the first intake was fantastic. Within 20 minutes, she had her pre-screening for temperature, blood pressure, etc. But the next contact she had after waiting was at 7 p.m.
Was this at the accident and emergency?
Yes.
Right. So let me explain how an accident and emergency works, Paul. And I think this is where the population needs to understand. An accident and emergency system around the world, sometimes we think it's only in Trinidad and Tobago, around the world, works on a triage system. That is, it is not first come, first serve. It is worst come, first serve. So very often in our accident and emergencies, we triage people to get the best possible result for the individual. That is, if somebody comes in with an ongoing heart attack, they will get preference to somebody who has been there before for a bee sting. If somebody comes in with a gunshot wound and they have severe internal bleeding, a bandit or whatever, they get priority over somebody who has been there waiting for a stitch on their knee. That is around, and those are complaints around the world. So it depends on what you're going for. If you're going for a life-threatening issue, you will be treated right away. We follow something called the CETAS, Canadian Triage Acuity System, 1 to 5. The triage nurse will determine the level of seriousness of your condition and put you on a pathway for the appropriate treatment. So if it's absolutely life-threatening, like an asthma attack gets priority.
But I understand that.
Right.
Anybody
and this is around the world, Paul.
And that's great, but anybody who takes a 94-year-old, 93-year-old to an emergency for respiratory issues, a flu, and the person is having breathing problems and has to wait 9 hours, they will tell you that's unsatisfactory.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, it depends on what the physician at the triage system determines. Very often, we will like to treat these patients quickly, and then what happens? 3 gunshot patients come in. An accident happens. People are bleeding. They have to make on-the-spot decisions in a public healthcare system to save lives, as many lives as possible.
Minister, whilst I'm listening and I'm understanding what you're saying, I have to earn Paul's side in this case, because a 94-year-old person in front of me, to me, that's an emergency. Once I see somebody, an elderly person, and I have a weakness, weak spot for elderly people. I just think they should be given more priority than they currently do.
So, accident and emergency doctor, for medical legal reasons, does not treat based on age. They treat based on the condition and the threat to the person's life.
Yeah.
So I have a 2-year-old asthmatic. If, as you are suggesting, that we give priority to the elderly who is not as serious, and the 2-year-old child dies, that doctor is liable for malpractice.
Right. So let me qualify that.
They treat the patient.
Right.
They treat the patient based on the level of acuity and the threat to life.
I should have added children in that too, because
yes,
I also think children should be given priority whenever they come.
Well, it's not,
because Minister,
from a layman's perspective, it makes sense.
Yeah.
From a physician perspective, for medical legal reasons, they treat the entirety of the patient in front of them, regardless of age, socioeconomic condition, whether it's a bandit or a law-abiding citizen. They have to treat the patient, and they have to treat the patient based on the severity of their condition, based on the Canadian triage acuity system from 1 to 5. If they determine you are 1, you get immediate treatment. If they determine you are 5, you will have to wait.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, because I was in that situation the first week of November where my niece fell and she complained of neck pains. And we took her to St. James Infirmary, and they said go to Mount Hope, and we did. And we waited 8 hours and nothing happened, so we left.
Right. Because a knee falling, suppose there was a shootout and we get 3 bandits coming in with internal bleeding. They have to treat those 3, because those 3 bandits can die. The doctors are caught in a tough position. They have to treat the patient based on the level of threat posed to life. So if we determine that what you are coming for can wait. Unfortunately, you'll have to wait. In an emergency, it is not first come, first serve.
Let me bring another example to the fore. One of the contributors at the town hall meeting in San Fernando, and someone just messaged me, indicated that they were given a 3-year appointment for cataract surgery.
Yeah. So cataract surgery is something that we are working on to bring it down. We had gotten it down to about 6 months, and then it started to go up again. So I have been meeting with the CEOs to bring down the waiting list for cataract surgeries.
But when someone gets a 3-year appointment, by that time you're blind.
Not necessarily. We triage cataract again. It is serious. You get treated fast. I have a cataract in my eye. I have one a year now.
One of the questions that's coming in is...
Paul, the point I'm trying to make, everything is based on priority. Not all cataracts are the same. The doctors will determine if you have a threat to sight, you will get your cataract appointment much earlier than people like me who have to wait.
One of the questions is, can the minister explain why he is unwilling, and I don't know, to introduce PrEP medication for HIV? And can you elaborate on what you meant by high-risk behavior?
I never said high-risk behavior. I saw in the newspaper, somebody said we should have PrEP for the general population. Nobody has told me yet what are the benefits of PrEP for the general population and what's the cost to the taxpayer for that. I
think they mean available. Okay. I think they mean to make it available.
Yeah. So we make available post-exposure prophylaxis. We give out condoms. We give out all of these things. But no one has told me yet what is the benefit of PrEP to the general. I saw that in a Newsday article. And what will be the cost to the population.
So it has to be the general population?
Well, that is what I saw in the Newsday, that we should make it available to the general population.
Well, for people who so desire. For people who so desire to use it. Because I actually know people who travel abroad to get it.
Yeah.
All right. We do have some calls. I do have one selected. Good morning, caller.
Sure. Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I understand what you're saying about the order in which emergency cases are dealt with. However, my question is this. How am I certain that there are several cases of shooting that takes priority over me? Why I have to wait 8 hours? Is there any accountability to validate, yes, the doctors really had 2 emergencies, or they're just farting around in the office, just not doing anything? Is there checks and balances that I can validate or prove to myself, or somebody could prove to me, that yes, I waited 8 hours because there was this emergency, that emergency, and that emergency.
Yeah. So that is what happens in our... Yeah, thanks. So that happens in our public hospitals often, especially in Port of Spain, San Fernando, Eric Williams, and now for the first time, gentlemen, we are seeing it in Sangre Grande. Sangre Grande never used to have so many shooting cases. But because of the gang 6, 7, and 8 now taking root in Sangre Grande Hospital is now treating much more gunshot wounds than before. Before it was Port of Spain. And we have to be cognizant that, I mean, it's going to sound trite, that crime is everybody's business. But all these shootings and stabbings and woundings affect the population's ability to access care in a timely fashion in an accident and emergency in a public health system. Because, as I said, the doctors treat the patient. They can't discriminate between bandit and law-abiding. They can't discriminate between the motor vehicle accident victim with a piece of metal in their gut bleeding out. They have to treat the patient in front of them based on the threat to that patient's life. And I'll give you an example. We have our dialysis center. A gang leader got an appointment to come in for dialysis. He walks into the dialysis center and starts to cuss and carry on and say, I will come for my dialysis when I choose, otherwise I will shoot up the place. That is what we are faced with. That is what we are faced with crime and criminality now. He doesn't want to stick to his appointment for dialysis. He wants to come in there when he pleases. Otherwise, he's going to shoot up the place. And these stories don't get told about what we undergo in this public health system.
And what was the outcome of that?
Well, they had to call the police. They had to call the
All right.
police and security.
Evie is here. Maybe I could switch my camera around, but she has a question to ask you because she was recently warded at Port of Spain this month, actually. Go ahead, Evie.
Hi, good morning,
Morning.
Ministerial. I hope that you can understand me because I still have the effects of not being well. But when I went to Port of Spain General, there's a doctor who's at the front who will assess whether or not persons coming in can access accident and emergency, or if they need to go to probably a health center, maybe their situation doesn't require. When I went, I couldn't breathe, so I was kind of gasping for air. My husband was with me, and he was trying to explain what the situation was, that I had gone to the health center, and the health center said, listen, if we treat you when you're still not well, please go straight to accidents and emergency, which is what I did. The doctor in front said, listen, your wife needs to talk to me, not you. And he said, but she can't breathe, so it's difficult for her to speak. And she said, yeah, she could talk, let she come. So I came and I'm trying to speak to her and tell her what the problem was. She said, speak up, I can't hear you. I said, but I can't breathe. So because of that, as you know, so I'm trying to tell her I can't breathe. So I'm knocking on the glass to get her to look at me so that she could see me answer her questions, because I can't raise my voice, I can't breathe. And she looks at me and she yells and she says, don't knock no glass here, please. And so my husband is now trying to intervene and said, she cannot speak. So she said, so why you come? And so I'm trying to tell her, this is what happened, this is why I came. And then she looks at me for a while, and then, so I again, can't breathe. And she says, go and register. So my husband lets me sit and I go and register. I am gasping for air. They do not come to me until maybe about half an hour after. So with that done, there is a man I'm listening to. I can't remember what he looks like or anything based on what I was going through, who say are waiting for she after. My point is, while I understand that these doctors have to deal with various types of personalities, and much like the example you gave, there are people who are coming there who are experiencing various who are in various levels of distress, who could fall down, I could have died. That's my point. So my point is, what is being done to ensure that these doctors are treating with members of the public in a way that helps them rather than makes them feel as if they're the ones doing something wrong by trying to access public health? Because she could easily have put herself in a situation if that man really did wait on her because of how she was treating everybody.
Right. So I can't comment on your individual case because I wasn't there. However, if what you are saying is correct, and I have no doubt that you have no reason not to be correct, that interaction is not what we are about. So I met with the quality departments of all the RHAs over the past 2 weeks to address these exact problems. The issue of empathy. Sometimes we do fall down on empathy. And what you are describing is a lack of empathy for your condition. All I can do now is apologize. However, there are avenues, Evie, for you to make a formal complaint to the quality department. There are hotlines, and I wish people will use it. So you can, and we treat complaints seriously. So your complaint sounds to be a very serious one about lack of empathy at that point in time. But if you want, if you have any details of your experience, please drop me a line and I will make sure and investigate it and have someone sit with you and do the necessary corrective measure. But we do recognize that sometimes we do have a problem with empathy in our system.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
It sounds very St. Joseph police station-ish.
Is it an issue of short staff, Minister?
No, it's not a matter of short staff. It's a matter of empathy for some people. I mean, what Evie described, what always makes the news in health are and I have no problem with with it. The good news doesn't make it. All the times people go in and get good care, that doesn't make the news, and that's fine. But what Evie is describing is something that we need to be aware of, because it is those cases where persons don't get the level of care and attention that we need to work on. And I have no doubt that she is telling the absolute truth, and it speaks to a matter of empathy that broke down at that point in time. I make no excuse.
All right.
Minister,
I'm just going to take 3 minutes just to take calls, because I have a lot of calls coming through.
Yeah, but I really have to go. I have a meeting at the ministry at 9.
All right. Well,
yeah.
We'll just take this one. I already selected it a while ago. Good morning.
Sure.
Yeah, hi, good morning. My question, are we going to ever deal with doctors working in the state sector and starting their private company, double dipping thing?
Okay.
Is there ever, can we do something about that? Is that illegal? Is a conflict of interest in my part? Or just would like to know how we're going to deal with that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So thank you for raising that very important issue. You will recall the Prime Minister appointed the Welsh Committee in our first term. That Welsh Committee came up with a majority report and a minority report. The minority report could not agree on how to deal with the issue of public-private practice by doctors. So what did the Honorable Prime Minister do? We took it to the Parliament and laid it in the Parliament and said, let's appoint a joint select committee to look at this issue of doctors having both public and private sector. Let's air this in the public domain. Let's bring in people, the public, the media, everybody. The Prime Minister appointed his members to a joint select. A joint select needs government, opposition, independent senators. The opposition, led by the Honorable Kamla Prasad-Bisesa, refused to appoint her members to the Joint Select Committee to look at this very same issue that this caller has rightly identified as a major issue. Because it needed a whole of society approach. Let's call people to account. Let's call people and get their views in a joint select committee to deal with this issue, because not even the Welsh committee could have come up with a majority opinion. They could not. So that's where we are with this particular issue.
Minister, thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show.
Anything you want to add before you depart?
Yeah. Your influenza vaccine. Let's see some life for Carnival. Thank you.
Okay, we lost it there for that whole statement, Minister. Say it again.
Just ask people to go out and get their influenza vaccine. Our sites are open, and let's get that count up to about 50,000. We're currently at 28,203.
The shingles vaccine you get at the community center as well?
At all health centers too, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go today and get my vaccine.
Yeah, and start to drink more water, give up the soft drinks, and eat less junk food and eat more fruits and veggies. And our outpatient clinics will have a lot less people.
Why is the minister attacking Steve like that?
Have a great day, Minister. Thank
you. Thank you.
All the best. You be safe.
Thanks, Minister. Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a great
I
day.
just want to say quickly, Cheryl Henry, I noticed it for a while, but you see this morning I drew the line and something had to be done. But I've noticed it for quite a while with that particular person, all right? But we drew the line this morning. Take care. Bye-bye, guys.
I didn't. Only after when Wendell mentioned it, I saw the message. I just see the name